So here we are, and we want to import our files into After Effects, okay? So I'm going to import by right-clicking in this gray area at the bottom of the project window. This is the project window. This is the toolbar. This is the composition window. This is the timeline. Anything we're using in the timeline shows down here. So I'm going to import a file, and I'm going to go to that outside folder. Here we go. I'm going to go to this folder, and I'm going to import ArtC Additive A. But I'm not going to import the PSD file. I'm going to import the ping files. Now the ping files, when I click on the first one, it's going to sense what kind of file it is. It's going to look at the file name, and it's going to say, this is a sequence. There's a number at the end. If there's a number at the end of any file, it will assume it is a sequence. So if you put the year at the end of your file name, it's going to think it's a sequence, and it's going to import it as one frame, and you will not be able to change it. So you want to make sure that you have it, the sequence, here it says ping sequence, you want to make sure you have a check mark next to the sequence when you want it to be a sequence, and when it shows up and you don't, you turn it off. Okay, we want it. We're enabling all acceptable files. It's telling you it's a ping. We're happy. That's great. And we'll go ahead and create a composition for this one. Okay, because we just want to see the A itself doing its thing. We're not going to put it in with anything else. So I'm going to make that into an actual composition. Now this composition is only 13 frames long, and anything that is in After Effects that you import, it's going to assume you want it to be 30 frames a second, or 29.97 frames a second. That's the default. That's what it goes to. We want to change that. In order to change that, we need to first get the sequence itself. This is the composition. It has pictures that look like geometric solids in what looks like a piece of film strip. And that is the composition. You don't want that. It tells you it's a composition over to the side. Here it says type. We want the sequence, and you can see this is the sequence. Sequences, you have a pile of different files, and over at the side it says type PNG sequence. And we can make this wider so you can read the whole thing. We want to take this and we want to interpret this footage so we can tell it how to play it. And to interpret the footage, you either can drag it down to this icon that's on the far left. It says interpret footage. When you mouse over it, you can go down to interpret footage. Okay. I think I'm going to do that because I can see better what I'm doing. I'm going to click on main. And here's the window that opens up. This is the dialog box for interpret footage. The main options is what we're working with. And it says assume this frame rate. Well, it's not that frame rate, it's 10 frames per second. So we're going to say assume this frame rate is 10 frames per second. And we want to start it at 0. That's the first frame is 0. And we don't have any fields. And we want to have it loop. We're going to make it loop 5 times. So we have 5 seconds of animation. Now, this composition is only still 13 frames long. So we want to change the size of this composition. To do that, we go up to Composition, and we'll have to select the composition timeline first. We select the timeline, we go up to Composition, and then we want to go to Composition Settings. The Composition Settings dialog box opens, and you can see that it's got all the settings we had before, and 30 frames per second is what we want, okay? But the duration is only 13 frames. So this is frames over on the far right here. The next thing up, this is seconds, minutes, hours. That's how you read duration. We're going to put a 5 here. So it will be 5 seconds and 13 frames. It's going to multiply the number of frames by that. And we're going to say OK. And we're going to drag this. This is the display. So come down to the bottom of the timeline. You see the slider bar with two sets of buttons. This is the zoom out and zoom in. And this is zoom into frame level or out to entire comp in time. So you want to go to the zoom out so you can pull it so everything shows. And on this layer, you can see that this layer of the timeline, this is the active part of the layer, and then this part is hiding. But if we drag on this box to make the whole thing turn bright, it will all play. So that's going to go all the way to the end. I'm going to Command S to save it. So now this is 5 seconds and 13 frames long. I'm going to press the space bar, and you can see that it works. It plays 5 times. Okay, Command Save.